The spring of 2017 stirred up a revised student resolution calling for San Diego State University to choose and accept a new non-human mascot, a concern that's been ongoing for many years. So what is a mascot? According to dictionary.com, it's an animal, person, or thing adopted by a group as its representative symbol and supposed to bring good luck. The origin of the word mascot, according to International University of Sports Federation, a recognized org by the International Olympic Committee, says that the word mascot comes from the French term mascotte, meaning a lucky charm. It's where sports organizations began using animals as mascots to provide a sort of entertainment for spectators. At first, teams brought real live animals that were typically predators, expecting to roar and strike fear into the hearts of their opponents. The transformation of live animals and two-dimensional fantasy mascots into the modern three-dimensional variety was triggered by the invention of the Muppets in the late 1960s. Larger-than-life puppets represent a new medium in mascot development and utility. They're cute and they're touchable corporate ambassadors. Corporate companies realize that mascots offer great potential outside of sports fields. So looking around in our daily environment, you can see lots of them. Take a look here. The common mascots that are seen throughout San Diego County are representative of high schools, community colleges, universities, and professional sports teams. See, the adoption of Muppet-like mascots proved to be overwhelming success in terms of public relations and marketing. So the success encourages other corporate and sports entities to create their own mascots, bringing massive amounts of success financially. With regards to success, when should we pump the brakes on these puppet-like images that are negative, evoke historic tragedies, and promote racial ignorance? Harvard.org defines racism as an ideology of racial domination in which the presumed biological or cultural superiority of one or more racial groups is used to justify or prescribe the inferior treatment or social positions of other racial groups. We saw this in the 19th century with the boarding schools intended for Native American children. They were stripped off of the reservations from the clutches of their parents' arms. Their hair was cut, their dress was changed. They were not allowed to speak their native language to one another and were definitely unallowed to associate with anybody of that reservation that they were just removed from. They also were required to adopt Christian names and denounce their own Indian names. U.S. Captain Richard Pratt coined the racist phrase, "Kill the Indian, save the man." Some may think it's difficult to believe, but racism is everywhere. It's had its day in the spotlight since the inception of this country and continues well past political borders. Racism is a learned ideology and perpetuates itself even with the slightest remark of humor among friends and family. The 1960s and 70s brought social movements which illustrated and illuminated issues in the Black, Mexican, Indian, homosexual, and feminist communities. All communities are different all across the globe. The UN acts as a global moral compass and legislates peace, equal rights, and dignity for all people. Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, supports the elimination of racial discrimination. There's been a narrative that sports mascots have a tendency to bring a heavy dose of racism in the form of entertainment, and the NCAA are addressing it. What does this say about other organizations who believe that racial, ethnic, and national references are something of the past? Well, welcome to 2017. In 2005, the NCAA submits a news release about the guidelines for the use of Native American mascots at championship events. And what they're initiating is that institutions should do their best to not support the use of Native American imagery or mascots. In this image here, Lalo Alcaraz, cartoonist, depicts a non-indigenous sports fan in war paint and feathers holding a pennant that reads, "Go Warrior Savages." Sadly enough, the term savages was repeatedly used as a derogatory term used against Native Indians. In order to honor people properly, we should have and share cultural sensitivities for them, including our own ignorance. Ronaldo Rosalto, he coined the term imperial nostalgia and defined it as a form of justification to the admission of killing people off in a manner that ignores Euro-American racist ideologies. As we see in both of these images, the sign that reads "Hate Indians, get ready for the Trail of Tears" is definitely not cultural sensitive. It's part of a devastating genocide of Native Indian people. And the window that's painted "We've got the Redskin spirit" is extremely disappointing due to the fact that the idea or the use of the word redskin was very derogatory and negative towards all Native Indians. As we saw in the previous slide, Sports and businesses adopt and initiate imagery to help sell the idea that their team or business you choose to support is strong, resilient, and very masculine. Even Philip Deloria Jr., the author of Indians in Unexpected Places, he comments on this. If athletes in general were emblems of post-frontier masculinity, Indian athletes proved to be even more complex, evocative symbols for white spectators. Mascot masculinity brings about expectations. According to Deloria, expectations that surround natives in films took on a few different forms depending on the context, but in all sets up the environment that created genres and many tropes that persist even today. We see that there are descendants from these indigenous people today who are strong and resilient and masculine. Using their ancestors as mascots or monikers is not giving respect or honoring who they are, who they were. It's letting them know that we want to remember them in a particular way. Like many indigenous cultures who assimilated to Euro-American standards, Indians hold jobs. They provide income that's necessary to pay for their clothing, their food, their housing, and Western education. They simultaneously practice their cultural traditions and sometimes wear their traditional clothing. These images scream that we are unexpected of them to do such things and that we deny their evolution. So what does this all boil down to? Well, it boils down to the issue at San Diego State and the Aztec mascot. Not too long ago, our mascot was known as the Wampus Cat. Then with the introduction of a combined junior college to the already established San Diego Normal College, there was an increase of male students, initiating a change in the identity of a more masculine athletic program. According to Professor Ozzie Mong, students proposed many new names for a new mascot, but none met school standards. However, in 1925, a newsletter article titled "Aztecs Tackle Ancient Rivals and Debate Soon" unofficially declares the Aztec as the new mascot. And rewinded to 2014, the NCAA stated that 14 schools removed all references to Native American culture or were deemed not to have references to Native American culture as part of their athletic program. San Diego State University was one of them. Coincidentally, in 2003, President Weber of San Diego State University and Division I Board of Director of the NCAA declares that Aztecs were not Native Americans. And so our proud institution of education was lied to by the head of our administration. What's worse is that the NCAA, the organization who oversees athletic concerns of all universities, was also lied to, yet never self-correcting. They're basically a bunch of hypocrites. So, anyone with 2 eyes, a brain, and some sense could easily look at this image, identify that indeed Aztecs are native to North America, disqualifying San Diego State University as one of the 14 universities who no longer use the Native American imagery or references on their campus. And unfortunately, the cookie crumbles. The Associated Student Body votes to keep the Aztec warrior. Per president of NASA, Marissa Mendoza states, if you really are honoring the Aztec culture, you're not even calling them by their own name. In rebuttal to this response, Assistant Dean of Student Affairs, Dr. Patricia Losada Santone, explains that to eliminate the Aztec culture would disappoint the Aztec descendants alums she knows personally. So what now? Well, get out there and support organizations who are working to remove racism in educational institutions. Avoid dialogue and narratives that make descendants of the Mexica Aztecs and all indigenous people invisible. There is a reality of real Indians with real names, real hungers, real loves, and real problems across North America and down through Central and South America. Educate non-indigenous and indigenous people of the history of our country. So long as you know it, share it. Realize that the fight for righteousness is not over, and although we have assimilated to Euro-American education, it's necessary to retain and appreciate cultural education.